This tiny peach slice, I can make it again and again, exactly the same every single time, because I made the mold myself with $15 silicone putty and a bit of patience. Let me show you how. If you work with air dry clay and you have ever wanted to copy one of your pieces, a charm, a jewelry element, anything, this is for you. I'm going to show you my full process, from sculpting the master prototype to making a reusable two-part silicone mold to casting the final piece. No 3D printer, no expensive equipment, just your hands and a few materials. Here's what you need. Silicone putty. I'm using the one from Resin. It's a two-part putty you mix equal amounts by weight. A small kitchen scale or some measuring scoops help here. Your clay for the master. I'm using Tamiya's Epoxy Putty. However, you can also use oven-baked polymer clay. Just make sure to harden it thoroughly in the oven after making. For the casting pieces, I'll be using our resin clay, acrylic blocks, something to sculpt with, and that's pretty much it. If you have decided to use polymer clay for creating the master, then you can skip this part and go straight to the part where I show you how I sculpt the master. However, I have decided to make the master with the Tamiya epoxy putty, and I will show you how you will use it. If you are using putty, you will notice that it consists of two different components. One is yellow and the other one is white. It is very important that you use equal amounts of each mass. I'm doing this by simply aligning those bars next to each other so they overlap perfectly, and then I'm taking my scissors to cut out the equal amounts, just like so. Then after you have unwrapped those masses, you just have to simply knead them together, mix them very well so you get a homogeneous yellowish color. And that is basically it. Please note that you will have about roughly 30 minutes to work with this mass before it really hardens to a consistency that is not pliable anymore. So just start mixing when you really know what kind of master you want to create, so you don't waste any precious time. Step 1, the master. This is the piece your mold will copy, so take your time here. I'm actually making an almost reality-sized peach slice to show you the details better than if I started straight away with a miniature. Don't worry, there will be a miniature speed through, so you can find that later in the video. Check out the timestamps if you want to go ahead to the miniature master right away. Start with a small ball of your polymer clay or your Tamiya epoxy putty and shape it into a slight oval. Then I will use my silicone tools to basically give it a more crisp outline to make sure the edges really look the way I want them to. I'll speed through the process, but this is really important because you want to make sure you don't have to file away any extra or shape it after the hardening with a Dremel or with nail files. Save yourself the time here. Once I'm satisfied with the overall rough shape and I've checked it from all dimensions, I am proceeding with a toothbrush to give the peach slice a very fruit-like texture. I'm just stippling it over the surface, and I'm also making sure to get all the sides and edges because this is a three-dimensional slice. We want to make sure it's not flat and the texture can be seen from all sides but the very bottom. Next, I'm using an X-Acto knife to basically further texturize the peach slice. I'm adding fine lines. This is for the membranes of the peach. I'm not sure what this is called botanically, but this is where the stone of the peach would normally sit if this was a real fruit. And if you have a real peach slice, you know it has those funky little divots and deficits where the stone was, and I'm trying to mimic that. Also, later on, when we color our casting piece, the color will basically follow those veins and it will give it a very natural appearance. So it serves here a double duty. Do not skip this. Once your master is done, let it cure. On the packaging of Epoxy Putty, it basically says it takes up to 6 hours. I would basically confirm that. If you want to be super safe or your piece is even bigger than mine, then I would just let it cure overnight. With polymer clay, obviously, if you use that for your master, you will now pop it in the oven and bake it according to the manufacturer's instructions. Make sure you don't underbake it. The last thing you want is for your master to crumble and break when you press it into the silicone putty. So, safety first, make sure it's not undercured. Now the silicone. This putty is two parts. You mix them 1 to 1 by weight or volume. I do use my measuring scoops to get equal amounts. All you have to do is to mix together the equal amounts of white and blue components together and knead them until you have achieved a homogeneous mass. So basically, you want to make sure there are no more white streaks visible in your putty dough. Press the putty around the master, making sure it fills every detail. The peach shape helps here. It's not too complex. So the silicone wraps around it cleanly. Make sure that all the sides around the peach slice are evenly thick and that it's not too thin on any sides. Otherwise, once you demold your master, you will probably break the thinner parts of the silicone mold. Now wait, this putty cures in about 30 minutes at room temperature. This is perfect for us. We don't need to wait half a day, and it is a very cost effective and actually super easy way of making molds. So while we're waiting, I decided why not showing you how I made the actual 1 to 12 miniature peach slice. If you're not interested in this part, then just skip forward, check the timestamps to the parts that you're interested in, maybe the demolding, maybe the painting. But just for the sake of it, I wanted to show you how it's done when you're working with a very, very small amount of clay, or rather mass in this point, to show you basically it is not different. You just need a bit more skill and more patience. And it also helps to work with a magnifying glass. I actually do use a jewelry maker's, I don't know what it's called. It's like a ring light with a magnifying glass. And it does help tremendously to actually see the fine details. So just enjoy the show. I'm speeding through it. Otherwise, just skip to the next bit. This is my favorite part. I peel the silicone back slowly from one edge. You can feel it release. The putty cures firm but flexible, like a soft eraser. And there it is. Look at that. Every detail I sculpted into the master is now a perfect negative in the silicone. The segment lines, the shape, the texture, everything is here. Now that we have a reusable mold, it's time to cast some copies. This is actually the whole point of making a mold. You make a master once, and ideally you can make an infinite amount of copies of your master, so you don't have to sculpt everything anew every single time you need a certain design. I take some resin clay and then color it with a dot of yellow to achieve a nice, very slight, warm white color. And then I'm simply pushing the clay into our silicone mold. Make sure that you press it into every nook and crevice to make sure it reaches every corner so there are no gaps. And then you just simply turn it around and pop it back out. I'm also showing you my miniature version of the peach slice. You can texturize it in the form for further detail. And then you can just simply peel back the silicone mold and gently get out your peach slice. And there it is, mini version. Super cute, super easy, just as detailed. Here are my first casts. Look at them side by side. The masters took me only a couple of minutes to sculpt, and the molds themselves, filling them, took a few seconds. And I think they look amazing. If you stuck around till now, thank you very much. Please give it a like if you find this helpful, and consider subscribing because I'm trying to make more awesome videos. All right, the rest of the video is actually dedicated to painting the peach slice. So if this is of interest to you, stick around. We are going to take a tiny dot of yellow, pink or magenta, and another dot of red. And these three colors will be mixed with 1 or 2 drops of water to give it a nice translucent finish. And this color mixture is closest to the inside of a peach. As you can see, I have diluted the color with quite a bit of water. I'm making sure to brush off any excess of my already saturated brush with a kitchen towel to make sure that I achieve a nice watercolor-like gradient finish. You want this to look very juicy, and the goal here is to go in a couple of times and to layer the peach color into the ridges and grooves of the inside of the peach to give it that juicy fruit-like finish, very veiny finish actually. And do let the color run into the divots because that will give it a very authentic feel. It will look super realistic. Just wait. I'm going to speed it up for you. Now we're going to dilute the already mixed paint with even more water and slightly brush it along the outside rim or edge of the peach to give it a slightly blushed look. Let's glaze this off camera. You know how to do it. It's easy. So that's the full process. From sculpting the prototype to casting multiples from your own handmade silicone mold. It's honestly one of the most useful skills I've learned for clay work. If you would like me to make other type of silicone molds, or if there's a specific fruit or I would say fake food you would like me to recreate, just let me know in the comments below. Other than that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out a lot. And I'm looking forward to the next video. Bye.